we don't need to overemphasize, or more emphasize the enormity of the issue. I extend my warm welcome to all of you who have agreed to come up to have this so important discussion and so timely discussion. Must also thank the Bloomberg Philanthropies who have provided support to us to work on this issue, to arrange these events so that relevant discussions can happen. I have few slides to share, and just to set the context right. If anyone can confirm if they my screen.
Yes, it is visible.
Yeah, it's visible, sir.
It is visible, just right. Okay. Just for confirmation.
We can see them.
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yes, Sonali.
Please go ahead, Sumit. Sorry,
Yes, Sonali.
please go ahead.
Okay. Okay. So this is the context I was talking about. We are discussing agricultural residue management, but this is more in the context of air pollution issue, which it contributes to. Now let's talk about the overall air quality issue in India, and the two maps are for the two seasons for the country. Left one is for summers, and the right one is for winters, and it clearly shows that winters is a season basically shows much severe air pollution levels, and of course much human health and other aspects of society. Okay, now moving the picture from India to Delhi level, this is how it looks like. If we compare it with the Delhi standard of 60 micrograms, you can see that barely in the months of monsoon it goes below the Delhi standard, but otherwise even in summers the air pollution levels, the PM2.5 concentrations are above the standards, and if we talk about winters, it is actually at 3 to 4 times above the Delhi standard. And we must know that our standards are relatively relaxed, and if you compare it with WHO guidelines, then we are much above the desired concentrations of pollutants. Now you can also see that we have two curves here, modeled and observed values, and we have actually customized our model for different sources, different conditions which are prevailing in India, and we could reduce the concentrations of PM2.5 using our model, which have been validated, and based on the validated model, we have estimated contributions of different sources towards PM2.5 levels in Delhi. Now I'll just, it's a very, too much information is in this graph. It basically shows the contribution of different sources in different months of PM2.5 concentrations in Delhi. This period where this green bars, which are denoting contribution of agricultural burning, it suddenly pops up, and you will not see in other months except in May, and you also have residue burning happening due to wheat. So in this season, the contribution of agricultural burning goes up to 24%. And this is the result for 2019. It varies from year to year based on meteorological conditions, based on number of fires you have in the region. Due to track number of fires through the satellite, and you will find that there are 5 different curves. For 5 old curve is for the year 2020. The data is till 15th October of the month, and you will see that this year is at this moment. In fact, in the initial days of October, you will find the number of fires detected were higher than what you had in 18, 19, and 17. In the last few days, you will see that the year 16 and 17 showed higher number of fires. But at the moment, we are finding the number of fires in this year are some in 18 and 19. That is something which we need to be worried about, and if we don't control the number of fires in next few weeks, we are heading towards a situation which can again lead to very high concentrations of pollutants. Is about the new study which we published in environmental research letters is about effect of 2.5 concentrations. So there was always this debate that groundwater policy which was introduced in Punjab in 2009 has led to this shift in harvesting patterns and the burning patterns, and that may have led to very high accumulation of pollution in a short period of time. But we tested this, and what we found is that the shift was about 10 days. If you compare 2009 to 2016, you will find that there was a shift of about 10 days in the burning pattern of fires. And if you put those 10 days in the model, you will find that PM2.5 concentrations in Delhi is shifted, but the shift of burning timing does not have a very major impact on Delhi's. It already has impact, 3%. That's not very humongous. However, if we further delay the burning pattern, if we further burn it in more calmer meteorology, then it can have more implications over PM2.5 concentrations. So this is something which we just published and just wanted to share it with you to set the context right. With this, I just again extend my welcome to all of you, and I hand it over to Mr. Sunil Dhingra, who is our expert on dealing with agricultural residue management in different parts of the country. Sunilji, all yours.
Sumit, for giving the overview context of today's brainstorming session. And let me also extend my personal welcome to all the participants and also the esteemed panelists who has agreed to be part of this discussion. I personally have been involved with this sector for quite some time. So I have my own some personal observations and remarks which I would like to share with all of you before I go into the introduction presentation as such. As I see that agriculture residue burning is a very, I would say, both technical, social, environment, and economical challenge. It has all the components which we have to see from the perspective of addressing this issue. And in the recent past, this is aggregated because of the issue of air pollution, the health-related issues, which is very much prominent in coming years. Means last couple of years. I would have basically three initial remarks before I begin with. I could see that agriculture residue, which is basically a farmer resource, the farm level resource, which is owned by the ownership lie with farmer. So be any policy or any technology or anything, you have to keep that in mind. So the incentive system or the policy perspective, the central is that we have to keep a farmer in a main stakeholder. So he has to be incentivized on whatever policy, whatever target we are looking. So this is one has to keep in mind while drafting both central level or state level policies around agri residue management point of view. My second remark is that see that long distance travel means transportation of this low value resource or waste or residue as such is not very effective long-term sustainable solution from carbon emission perspective. So one has to very clearly looking at its local use as a resource, either for food, feed, fertilizer or energy and any other purposes which is there. So in these contexts, if I have to look into old-fashioned planning process, where we were in 90s, if I remember correctly, that in MNRE, we were doing the district level planning. And I think the time is, because this is a dispersed resource, so one has to look at developing agriculture residue management district level plan. So which will look into what is the resource which is available and what is my need in that particular district. From the sustainability perspective, one is first looking at as a feed or fodder as a resource, then fertilizer, material recovery, and fuel and electricity application. That is a ladder of sustainability, and then each district has its own requirement in that perspective. So possibly top-down planning process will not function in agriculture residue management, and the one which we are discussing. So this is point number 2 I would like to tell. And whatever we have seen, and I will detail out, right now we are looking in situ versus ex situ kind of approaches. But possibly we have to more integrated approach we have to see if which include in situ and ex situ. It can't be versus each other. So this is where I think most cooperation is required between different ministries in Government of India and also the state government to address this issue completely from the perspective of management point of view. So with these 3 remarks, I will now switch my presentation. I extend again welcome to all of you for this discussion. So this is the slide. If you look at these 2 pictures on the right hand side, the first one is the farmer is burning it, which is the current practice in many states, which is happening. But look at the second picture, which I have taken in 2016 in one of the village when I visited during the harvesting time. This farmer has collected the farm residue, but he has employed his home labor, basically, and he has collected everything on the farm, but he don't know where and how to use this material. So he's now confused what to do with this. So this is the situation, the irony. We have to see even the farmer get collected because of not burning it, but then eventually how he will dispose of this. So this was the situation. So this tells us the problem at the farmer level, and he has to sow the next crop, and this is what it is displaying that to us. So if I look at from crop residue point of view, something around 683 million tons and even more crop residues are there, and out of that 178 million ton as per the TIFEC report is burned on the field, which has no economical value as such. And most of these are basically, we are talking about rice, wheat, cotton, maize, and sugar cane, for example. These are the major crop where burning is happening. And if you look at some of the paper, the environment and social cost of open burning is estimated to something around 3,000, 4,000 crore in particularly the paddy season, which lead to that 2 major issues. That one is that monocropping and burning of residue, which has resulted in 2 isolated challenge in the agriculture thing. One is the decrease in water table, which is also reported in the research, and also the reduced soil fertility. And associated issue is what we are discussing today is air pollution. So these are some of the additional challenge to the farming community has been posed by burning. It is not only the issue of health and air, but it is also the food security of our future food security issue through agriculture. When you look at this particular slide, which actually give us the cumulative incidence of fire in Punjab, Haryana, and Uttar Pradesh, as we have seen the peak, which is 2006 in all these 4 states, progressively it is coming down. As you can see in 2019, almost 50% fire incidences are reduced from the level of 2016. And so is the case in Haryana and UP also. But it is significantly higher as far as air pollution is concerned, or even health related issues are there. So, but the trend is that it is reducing, and so we have to be more aggressive in bringing it down to the safe level. So, next please. Now, these 2 slides, this one, and the second one, I have borrowed it from Sumit, where they have, for the 2 reference year, 2016 and 18, the 3 districts they have studied, that one is Delhi, Ludhiana, and Kanpur. You see the overall PM2.5 concentration in these 2 reference year, they have gone up in all these 3 districts from 2016 level. But the good thing is the contribution of agriculture residue in the overall contribution of 2.5, that has reduced from the agriculture residue burning point of view. As you can see in Delhi, Ludhiana, and Kanpur, it has come down in these 2 reference years. And one can look its impact on both on so as we see the FRP values, which is fire radiation level, this has reduced something around 29%. The intensity of fire has reduced something around 29% in 2018 in Punjab and Haryana, as per the satellite data. But its contribution has on PM 2.5 has reduced something around 6 to 8% in the overall concentration of 2.5 levels. Please. Now, if you look at from the policy landscape perspective, what we have done so far, there are 2 specific. One is this in situ, which is soil incorporation, which Ministry of Agriculture is pushing, and as they have created, spent about 1,200 crores in last 2 years, where they are supplying this happy seeder and other soil incorporation machineries with 50% subsidies to farmers and 80% to the cooperative sectors. And so far in Punjab, last year, they have created CHCs about 7,000, more than 7,000, and 5,000 more they have planned for this year. And in Haryana, close to about 3,000, and additional 2,000 were planned during this season, which impact we will see in coming months and so. So large chunk of this thing has gone to basically for in situ management of agri residue at the farming level, and the impact we have seen in the previous slide, which I have shared with you. Look at from the XC2 perspective, MNRE has a large program of this converting energy from agriculture waste or other forms of waste material, either in form of biogas, power, or ethanol production. So that is incentive system is displaced. So there is some policy there. And in 2018, biofuel policy in the size, there is a huge target we have set for 2G ethanol and including bio-CNG production in the country. So there are something around 5,000 biogas, big scale biogas, bio-CNG plants are being set up. So where a lot of these agriculture waste or other livestock waste will be get utilized in coming years as they are advancing on the field. Then very importantly, NTPC in their power station, wherever they have pulverized coal-fired boilers, they have come up with 10% blending of agri-residue biomass pellet combined with coal. So there's some level of demand has been created for these agri-residue-based products for companies or entrepreneurs to invest on. In addition to that, there are two specific state policies, like for Punjab, they intend to build about 150 new megawatt of power from paddy straw based power plants in Punjab, and there's some progress which has happened. So we'll listen more about that from in the following presentation. Haryana also have a policy on bioenergy, and they have intent to build about 50 megawatt of 100% paddy straw based power plants. So essentially, we are talking about both in situ and ex situ demand creation in the economy for utilizing this waste material. So this is the policy. And recently, this year, we have seen that crop diversification is also being proposed in Haryana, Punjab, and other states also. From crop diversification point of view, there is a scheme which was launched by Haryana this year, Mera Pani Meri Virasat, in 12 districts, where diversification is looking towards maize production or any other pulses which can be grown. So there is a minimum support price has been announced, and the target is that 1 lakh hectare of paddy area is being diverted to these kind of alternate crops. And the farmer is incentivized to give about 1,000 rupees per acre if they are not growing paddy in the season. And also this scheme also talk about wherever the panchayat level groundwater depth is more than 35 meters, then permission for sowing paddy was not given. So the impact on the fire and also the pollution will be seen during the season from this new crop diversification scheme. So is the case with Punjab. They have increased the maize area and also the cotton cultivation has been promoted this year. And a lot of emphasis has been given to horticulture and other kind of crops, floriculture also to the farming communities as part of this crop residue. So this is the broad the scheme of things, options which are available to utilize agriculture residue. From the in situ perspective, a farmer can use rotavators and those kind of a machinery, and then happy seeder for incorporating into the soil. Ex situ, as we have seen, there are different options are there for biopower, bio-CNG, bioethanol, all those kind of a thing. And industry, for example, can use this material for as a fuel in industrial boilers, paper and packaging application. And a lot of this decentralized scale development can happen around this agriculture-based enterprises in those districts. This is the model which we presented to the minister last year. I name it as Paralleli. Paralleli as residue for air and livelihood improvement. I thought I should share with this group here, where we are vouching it that it is a because of the dispersed nature of this resource and long distance travel or transportation is not very sustainable on a long-term basis. So decentralized model combining 2 or 3 villages, and we typically, if you look at the average paddy straw production on a per village basis is something around 1,250 based on the number of villages and the quantity grown. So if this is the case, so something around 5,000 tons of paddy or agriculture residue need to be managed. So we see that if we have a 250 kilowatt of biomass gasified trigestion system, which will not only produce electricity, but also produce cooling energy and drying energy. to meet the demand for the horticulture and other kind of crops which farmer will grow. And the byproducts of this agriculture biomass gasifier is in the form of a biochar, which can be as a source for manure. The nutrients can go back to the soil in those village economy itself, or maybe making some agarbatti kind of a this thing. And part of this paddy can be used for making pulp and paper, for meeting some of the eco-friendly products like tablewares and those kind of a thing, where enterprise the business model exists on ground. Then we are also looking in this framework a pelletizing machine, local pelletizing machine, which will create pellets, and this pellet can be used for local industry, dhabas, brick kilns, or any other local industry in that economy. So the whole emphasis here, as you can see, it is meeting most of your demand for both for the agriculture perspective, for the energy perspective, for pooling energy pumps, and it will create a lot of local employment, transformation of the villages from the livelihood perspective, and using these as a residue to meet both the challenge of air pollution and also livelihood improvements in those economies. So that is the model we presented, and I think some demonstration may be required in those situations. One of the critical challenge in terms of agriculture residue management is also on account of institutional and operational model. So what we propose or we to create an entity that some agency like a company which can be a joint venture between state government or central government joint venture, which will create infrastructure for storage and supply of this paddy straw or any other agriculture residue, for example, and also providing low-cost financing to private entrepreneurs who will set up these small enterprises to convert this into fuel, electricity, cooling energy, or any other non-energy applications also in the local economy. So there is one critical part is that how the aggregation and storage will happen for a long season, and so that investment can come on the enterprise side. Then, of course, this agency or the institution can also create market linkages to develop this business model on ground. I could share few case studies which we have been engaged. So this is a small decentralized cold storage system which is storing that horticulture and the fruits. This is in Kapurthala, where 15 metric ton of cold storage system has been set up, mainly for local fruits like melon, pears, and other fruits. So what we have seen is that in horticulture, until unless there is a intimate storage system is being created at a farm level, farmer will not get benefited. So this kind of a setup, which is utilizing this agriculture biomass to convert that into cooling energy, the farmer impact to the farmer is that he is getting 30%, 35% higher prices for their produce whenever the market is right to sell those produce, and the operating cost is much higher, much lower for such kind of a facility compared to diesel or electricity, for example, as you can see some of these numbers are given here. Just to close my the last slide, we are partner with DST has given us a R&D project where TERI, Punjab State Council, ARC, Hyderabad, we are the partner, and we are actually developing a small scale paddy straw based briquetting machine this year, and we have basically developed certain wear coating on, because paddy is a very unique material, which is a very tough material because of the silica and the abrasive nature of this material. So some of the machinery or the wearable component need to be upgraded so that downtime of this machine reduce and the cost of pellet also get reduced. So this machine, which is more or less we are going to test in and Principal is our partner, the industrial partner, where we are going to test during this season. And these are the few components of machine which we have improved through a different set of coatings which we are going to test. Just to inform you, apart from the management, the technology also needs some attention. Just to close for this panel discussion, I thought that these are some of the important, I think, discussion point one can look at during this session. How we can move from in situ versus ex situ to in situ versus in situ and ex situ approach. A balanced approach is required for large-scale deployment of any technology or process. So that negative impact of any particular option is addressed. Then, of course, very important as decentralized versus centralized options, as long-distance transportation becomes difficult. There are a lot of effort which has been made by both state agencies and central PSUs last couple of years. So we would like to see what type of lesson we can draw from this experience and how we can further improvise from there. Then, of course, the bigger challenge is how to scale up the aggregation business. I'm sure Rohit will definitely address this issue. How to mobilize required investment for this sector, that is a key challenge. And other what type of key driver and incentive system, particularly the farmer and entrepreneurs who want to set up a value chain proposition need to be discussed. So these are some of the key questions we should aim during the brainstorming session. And with this, I will stop here and hand it over to Dr. Rajesh Shankar.
Thank you, Dhingraji. That was an absolutely outstanding presentation. You put all the issues very, very clearly, and the last slide has given enough food for thought to our panelists. I would, at this stage, make only one comment, and which is that in the last 2-3 years, there has been a lot of learning and a lot of efforts in all the directions that you've listed in your presentation. So today is a good time for us to see whether we can move towards a consensus on where we need to undertake more vigorous action, and can we look at a date like 2022 or 23 or 24. If we get our act together and do all the right things, then crop burning will cease to be an issue in air pollution. Because that should be our goal, and not something beyond 3-4 years. Because if good things can't happen in 3-4 years, then one begins to lose faith and confidence that whether they will happen at all. And I must give you and Dr. Sharma credit for putting together a really good panel, or a very expert panel with a very wide range of expertise and experience. So with this, may I request Karunesh Garg, Secretary, Punjab Pollution Control Board, for his comments. Please unmute yourself, and we are all ready to listen.
Good evening, everyone. I am very delighted to be here in this webinar to discuss the various options we have for the stubble uses, so that it is not burned by the farmers and it has a resource value. Daljit, can you share the presentation, please? Daljit? Actually, sorry, I am on a different location, and I am just trying to share the presentation from some other side. Hello?
We can hear you, sir. Please go ahead.
Please go ahead.
I think Sumit, in fact, I was trying my person to share the presentation. I can go ahead with this only that stubble burning has emerged as a very big environmental challenge to all of us in this period, and we are grappling with this for the last, I think, 10 years. Since when Punjab Pollution Control Board had banned the burning of paddy in the fields in 2013, and we were discussing at various levels with various various forums how to handle this stubble and how to make sure that this paddy is not burned. At that point of time, it was a very difficult task how to handle such a huge task, because 20 million tons in Punjab which need to be handled, and out of which only 4 to 5 million tons is for the basmati belt, which is reused back somehow. So at that point of time, we got in touch with Punjab Remote Sensing Center, and we developed a system to have lat-longs of the fire incidents. And we also developed a system how to verify these fire incidents at various locations in the districts. And after certain time, we have been able to convince the district administration and the government at various levels to make this happen, because Punjab Pollution Control Board doesn't have that much staff. If we think that we can do that kind of activity to control the stubble burning at this level, we cannot. We were not able to verify those sites, and now the whole of the state machinery, they are working on it, and we have state level, village level nodal officers, and as well as we have cluster officers, we have district level officers, and it is being monitored at the level of the chief secretary on a daily basis. So I am when we talk about the ambient air quality of Punjab and Delhi, and always it is blamed that by Delhi side, that NCR region is being impacted by the stubble fire from this Punjab and Haryana or Western UP. I just want to make a quick comment that the ambient air quality in Punjab generally remains in the moderate category, whereas the ambient air quality in Delhi, that slips into poor or very poor or severe category. So I don't feel that that type of impact is made by the stubble burning on the ambient air quality of NCR. And we had a study from Indian Institute of Scientific Education and Scientific Research, ISER, at Mohali. Statistically, they have gone for a analysis of all these monitoring stations. I am audible? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you, sir. Please go ahead.
You are audible. You are audible.
Yes. In fact, we have gone through the data of various stations in and around Delhi as well as Punjab. And by that study, we have found that the monitoring stations which are on the northwest side of Delhi, they are less impacted by the direct air mass transfer to that location, because the air mass transfer which comes from Punjab or Haryana and directly impacting the northwest monitoring station, PM2.5 levels are lesser impacted, whereas it is found to be more on the southeast side or UP side. And that study also says that the air mass which is passing above Delhi, that goes up to UP, and then it turns back and it brings back the pollutants, and that is being loaded into the environment of Delhi. In fact, we have just a case that just to say that Punjab and Haryana are more responsible for causing ambient air quality deterioration in NCR should be looked again through a proper study, because there are other reasons also. And moreover, even if that is 5 to 7% which is coming stubble, the rest 95% is the inherent uh, ambient air situation in Delhi, where vehicular traffic and anthropogenic activity, industrial activity.
Gargi, we are not trying to hold anybody responsible. We are trying to understand what solutions you are attempting, and what is the experience, and what do we look at the future.
Yes.
But we are not saying Punjab is responsible or Haryana is responsible. So could you tell us what is happening and what you see could happen?
Yes.
Okay.
This challenge can be met by there are a few actions which we need to do. One is we are to monitor as to where this stubble fire is going on, and we will have to take action against the defaulting farmers. Second is we will have to provide some kind of facility to the farmer as to how to go for a in situ management and ex situ management. I am fully convinced that, as Mr. Dhingra said, only in situ management is not a solution. We will have to go for a balanced approach where in situ and ex situ will go hand in hand. Earlier, the Punjab government has already supplied 50,000 machines through the central subsidy to the farmers, and we are already in process to provide 23,000 more machines to the farmers, out of which around 8,000 have already been delivered. So, on this front, government has already provided the farmer with a machine for in situ management, as well as if we talk about the ex situ, 97.5 megawatt of these power plants, which are based on the this stubble or biomass, they are already in operation in Punjab, and we are also going ahead with more plants in this direction. There is a proposal by HPCL to have a ethanol plant, and bio-CNG plants are also coming up in Punjab. There is a policy gap which the Punjab government is trying to put it before the central government, that in case this biomass based power plants, the rate of the electricity is 8 rupees per unit, which is to be paid, which the power utilities are not ready to pay when they get a power at the rate of 2.5 or 2. So there need to be some kind of viability gap funding which is required from the central government. And also in case of these bio-CNG and ethanol plants, Punjab is putting up a case that there should be some arrangement with the oil companies so that they can offtake this, they can have an MOU for offtake for 20-25 years, so that the private investment should come in, and that investment should make available those kind of facilities where this biomass can be used. Basically, these steps are very urgent and required if we want biomass to become a resource for the farmer, and they should not feel burdened by this biomass. As far as centralized or decentralized activities are concerned, we were working on that already, as Mr. Dhingra said. There was one company, they were trying to put up a torrefication plant, and they were also trying to develop this as a fodder. And they were having a centralized plan where around 25 square kilometer of area will be served by one plant. So if we are able to set up such plants as a successful model, then the replication or duplication will be very easy, and that can management of the stubble. So I think we all should work together for the circular economy, which we need to put in before for the farmers for this stubble. Mr. Dhingra rightly said that Punjab State Council has already, they are doing one project for briquette making, which will be used in the briquillons. And if we are going to successful, then it can be the future fuel for briquillons also. With this comment, I thank you all for giving me chance to speak on this occasion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garg. That was very useful and enlightening for many of us. Thank you, Mr. Garg. That was very useful. May I now request Dr. Jai Bhagwan from the Haryana State Pollution Control Board for his comments and views. Please. Dr. Jai Bhagwan, are you there? Can we get you on the screen? Dr. Jai Bhagwan, are you
Sir,
there?
he hasn't joined as yet, sir.
So can we move on in that case to Shri MP Singh, Director of the Punjab Energy Development Agency, for his comments?
Yeah, thank you so much, sir.
Please.
Yeah, I've been quite a long time in touch with Dr. Dhingra, and it has been always a pleasure to be with TERI, whether it is biomass or whether it is biogas. And I clearly remember last year when we were there in TERI for this a very nice seminar in which we had on biogas, especially when IIT professor and Dr. Vijay was there, and it was very enlightening. And Dr. Dhingra has been kind enough, even he, I'm going to say, sponsored me along with him for a meet in US also, but I was at that moment tied up in Germany, so it was unable to join with him. But it is always a pleasure to be with TERI, and rather it is always a learning exercise for us. And as regards the efforts and issues which have been already highlighted, and Mr. Karnesh Garg has already pointed out some of the efforts which have been made. So I'll not like to repeat on them, but I'll just say with slight depth on that, as you're very well aware, he says on the in situ and ex situ also. I would like to say that more on the ex situ side, because what happens is that we have, if we look at paddy straw, it is around something like close to about 34 to 3500 kilocalories of energy. So if we look, everything is basically has a heat content. So from that angle, if we look at it, and energy in any form, it's not only electricity. We have many forms, and many forms we have not touched upon. Whenever we speak to MNRE also, and even in private seminars and in groups, I always harp upon the fact that Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, not for Ministry of New and Renewable Electricity. Some of the electricity sector has been grown and gone into a very commercial scale in our country. But that growth we could not witness in gaseous fuels, in heat energy, and energy in other formats, whether it is solids or liquids. I wish that those kind of growths and development of infrastructure, regulations, rules acts also comes in place for those sectors. If those sectors could be regulated and grown up in that fashion, I don't see that we could have these kind of problems happening in northern India. That's my very, I'm going to say, strong gut feeling about that same. I'd just like to summarize slightly that we have those about 11 plants in operation, and they are operating very well. We have projects of biomass power which started 15 years back, and there has been support, long policy support by the government of Punjab, by our organization, and also a long arm of support from the Regulatory Commission in shifting over some of the projects which are set up in the pre-era from the regulatory regime itself in the electricity sector. When we had single part tariffs, then we shifted to two-part tariffs. It was very important to sustain these projects. But we have now 11 projects operating close to about 100 megawatts, and something like about 40 to 50 megawatt is in the pipeline. Similarly, we have around something like 450 megawatts of cogeneration projects in operations. But they use less amount of paddy straw, but they use a lot of biomass. So we have some people who have started using paddy straw also in cogeneration mode, where tariffs are definitely lesser by 1.5 rupees as compared to biomass IPP modes. I've been advocating to the ministry to start a tri-generation program for the last 2-3 years now, and put in some sort of CFA regimes for tri-generation also. Because the kind of efficiencies we get in tri-generation and outputs, it is the right usage for that heat content. So there's a lot of industry which can use cooling and VAMs along with steam and power generation. Thirdly, we are now very strongly in touch and joining hands with NTPC. We had a lot of meetings with the Ministry of Power, and we are promoting, and there's already a tender from the NTPC, which is about 5 million tons of paddy straw. There's going to be its pre-bid conference on 21st October. And already a lot of discussions have been happening in that. We have already given to NVVN to set up around something like 6 biomass pelletization, paddy straw pelletization plants in the state of Punjab. We have offered them full support. We are also harping and bringing in a lot of private sector in keeping in the fact that NTPC is ready to buy that pelletized paddy straw on a 4 to 5 years long-term regime, which is quite a business opportunity at this moment. We have been in touch with a lot of private sector companies who have invested in renewable energy, and I see a lot of light at that end of the tunnel to kick in about something close to about 1 to 2 million tons into pelletization alone. We have also worked hard upon the CBG regime. I'm glad to share that we have one of the largest projects in India, which is going to get commissioned in April 2021. It's already about 90 to 95% complete. That's about 33 metric tons of bio-CNG per day, which they are going to supply to about 11 to 12 filling stations of Indian Oil. It is in the setting up in the Sangrur district, Sangrur. In addition, we have also allocated 8 more bio-CBG projects, which are under various stages of construction. They are a little smaller than that. We have recently allocated 8 more CBG projects, so 16 projects totally up on pipeline, which will use around close to about 1.2 million tons of paddy straw alone. I see a lot of support and a lot of future action in the CBG sector, because I feel biomethanation is a better technology, better cycle than Rankine cycle. And of course, Dr. Dhingra shares the same view with me on that part, because I don't have any ash to handle, I don't have any air or smoke to bellow out. It's a cycle which is a very complete cycle. And we also have one of our own facilities which we are operating, which is a smaller facility in Ludhiana. Dr. Dhingra knows about it, and he has also visited that facility. And that was a startup plant which we set up in 2004. It is still in operation. It's a 1 megawatt facility utilizing kettle dung only. We are building 2 more projects, such of about 12,000 cubic meters each, which will be, I'm to say, generating about 5 tons of CBG each. So in these 3 areas, we are looking at a lot of action. Mr. Garg has also highlighted that we have requested the Ministry and the Honorable Minister personally from the Honorable CM also to provide us viability gap funding. And we have advocated that on the fact that if we want to enlarge the biomass sector, it has got a lot of more advantages as compared to solar and wind, because it's 24/7 power, firm power. Secondly, it is providing you a lot of jobs opportunity in the rural sector, rural economy. Thirdly, it is putting in a lot of money for the farmers back into the stubble itself. So with those points, it's got a lot of socio-economic impact in the rural economy of Punjab. So with that thought, we are probably pushing about a 100 megawatt program, and ministry has assured us that they will are very serious about it, and probably we may see some very soon a sanction from the Ministry of Finance on that account. We have also proposed a modeling of solar and biomass hybridization for the state of Punjab. Solar has gone very cheap. So what we have tried to do is that we have done about in the ratio of 7:1 in terms of capacity utilization, linked biomass capacities with solar, and build some hybrid facilities, which we feel that the tariff will be close to about 4 rupees per unit. So this facility, we have looking at initially setting up a 54 megawatt facility in the state of Punjab with a 6 megawatt biomass tied up with something like 48 megawatt solar power plant. As a test plant, we may go ahead with this project very soon. So these are some of the initiatives which we are taking under the XC2 program. And aside that, there is a new policy which is now being framed out in the state of Punjab for the new and renewable energy, in which we are going to support and provide incentives to companies like Prestel and some more companies who are planning to set up briquetting plants and utilize them for only meeting the steam requirement of industry. So we feel that we need to incentivize those sectors also, where they are trying to replace furnace oil and conventional fuels in industry for steam generation alone, where actually cogeneration is not possible or low pressure steam is required. So that's a very huge sector in the state of Punjab, and there are a lot of focused industries like dyeing industry, then this food processing industry, which basically utilizes low pressure steam. In addition, I also see a lot of work being done by paper industries, and there is one industry, Quantum Papers, which probably Mr. Dhingra is also aware of. They have been also doing some work in these areas, and combined effort needs to be done, because a lot of it, a single, I mean to say, technology or a single solution is not the answer for such a big quantum of biomass agri residue which is available. So we're exploring all these means, and I feel that close to about 4 to 5 million tons we could utilize. Currently, we are using only about 1.5 million tons of paddy straw in these efforts. And I see a strong case for such projects. And we have also been now formed a state level Satat committee, which is headed by our additional chief secretary. And under this, we had about 1 or 2, 3 meetings where MOPNG, IUC, and various other ministries, along with state departments, agriculture, and the pollution control are part of this committee. And PEDA is also working quite a lot in this area. We are looking at a possibility and opening up a sector from the angle with MOPNG ministry, MOPNG being the main nodal ministry, that why to transport CBG on caskets to the filling stations. Why not put this CBG into CNG pipelines which are being put up in the state, which will open up this sector in a very fast and a very ease of operating business model, because you can sell then and I mean to say let the gas work on interstate and intrastate modeling like electricity. We have already proposed these kind of models to the MOPNG. MOPNG has come back to us and said that we are seriously looking at that, and they're going to issue some directions to the CGD, that is the city gas distribution companies, which have been allocated a lot of areas in the state of Punjab. And like Gujarat Gas is here, like Torrent is there. So we have requested IOC and MOPNG to work on those models, so the projects can be set up near the pipelines, so that the waste could be used, gas could be prepared and injected through metering systems and sent into the CNG. Because CBG, if you know, and you know more well than me, you being a scientific organization, it is in kilocal terms, it's much better. Even in chemical formulation terms, it is better than the oil well CNG. And if we could go ahead with those kind of regimes, I feel that the day is not far off. We may be able to replace about at least 50 to 60% of the POL requirements of the state with CBG alone. And paddy straw could turn itself, rather than a stubble burning issue, environmental issue, into a gold mine for the state of Punjab and also for the nation to replicate. So we see those kind of technology, and we also look at joining hand with other institutes, even TERI also, to come and join hands with us to look at more better efficient digester technologies in the state and in the country whole, so that we could look at commercialize better digester technologies which are more efficient, and also look at a lot of plant equipment which we are still importing. We are doing repair and maintenance for us project at this moment, which is owned by us. We are still importing a lot of equipment. I am saying after 20 years also, when we build that plant, we are still required to import good quality equipment, which probably we are not able to find in India so far. So we need to seriously look at options in Make in India, and also look at widen the scope, and look at many institutes and companies and private sector join hands with us to take this forward. So thank you so much. Thanks a lot. And it's good to be with all of you.
Thank you. I mean, listening to what you had to say makes one feel a little more optimistic that options are there which, if pursued aggressively, would probably give us a solution. And especially this idea of using the gas pipeline for injecting this energy, I think, has a lot of potential if the commercial and other details could be worked out quickly. So this is quite encouraging, and I must thank you. Let me request Mr. Prithpal Singh, Additional Director of the Punjab State Council for Science and Technology, for his views.
Good afternoon, everyone. In fact, we entered into this paddy straw activities way back in 2013, when a question was posed, okay, how can we do anything with the paddy straw management? So first thing which came to my mind was, as Mr. MP Singh had said, that yes, it has a fuel value. Every biomass has a fuel value, and why not to try in as a fuel in any industrial activities. So that was a time when we started exploring this. We passed through many phases, and we found there are certain issues with paddy straw. Started with the testing of calorific value, varied from 2800 to 3600 kilocalories, depending on its aging, and storage was another issue. Then first major issue which came to us was pre-processing. That is and if we convert any biomass into a fuel, firstly we need to store in a minimum space, and the briquette is the best option. And if we want to convert into briquette, we need to chop it, we need to grind it to a certain size. Only then it can be converted into briquette or pellet. Now, while converting into briquette, we found, because it has a silica, so it's very difficult to cut. We interacted with many machinery suppliers. They said, okay, it's very easy, we can do it. And surprisingly, everyone said, okay, a simple toka jo have, we can try with that only. So first we tried with that they failed. Then we interacted with other biomass based power plant agencies, that how they are using this paddy straw. Then it came to us, it's a big challenge for everyone, which still needs some proper management technique or resolution technological support in that. And anyhow, for pilot studies, we could cut it, grind it, and then briquetting was another issue. So while converting into briquette, we found out all the machineries which are available, briquetting machines which are available in the various part of the country. Those are meant with the biomass with the density of 200 kg per meter cube. And this biomass, when grinded paddy straw, it is hardly 120 to 150. So it is very light in weight. To convert into a briquette was again a challenge. So we tried with different mixes, and we found out, okay, pure paddy straw conversion into briquette is a big challenge as of now. Let us try with other biomass, maybe other bioresidue. It could be cow dung, pressed mud, or other mustard straw and everything. So we managed to convert on a pilot scale. We converted 5, 6, 7 tons of paddy straw into briquette. Then we tried with the combustion trials. As Mr. Kaneshkar had said, okay, why can't we try it brick kiln? It has a no grate or anything. There could be not because it has a silica that leads to a slagging. So since in brick kilns we don't have any grate or furnace, like it's an open system. So we tried with that with different proportions and we achieved some success. Then we upscaled this model and we could manage to produce brick kiln, very good brick kiln with the high strength, which was because if you are aware in the south west of Punjab, they are using biomass for brick production, and which that is coming from Rajasthan. So we opted those units. We tried with the briquettes made from paddy straw and other biomass. This project was conceived with the support of Punjab Pollution Control Board, and we did a complete study, and it was we could say, okay, yes, bricks can be produced from paddy straw. So that was in 2014-15. We said, okay, now what should be the size of a briquette manufacturing unit, whether it's a decentralized or a centralized system. And we found out transportation of paddy straw is again a very expensive technique because it's very low bulk density. So we said, okay, let us have a decentralized kind of a system wherein we should have maybe in a cluster of 7 to 10 brick kilns, and we should set up a bricking unit in their vicinity. And paddy straw, since brick kilns are in the field, so paddy straw could be collected within a lead of 5 to 7 kilometers, which will make them economical system. So we submitted, and when we worked out the costing part, we found that it needs some support from the funding agency because the equipment, the payback is very less, IRR is very high. So we approached Ministry of Environment and we got a project. The first of paddy straw conversion plant in the country that was set up, pilot plant was set up in district Moga, where we produced set up a bricking plant of 24 tons per day, and all the briquettes which were produced, that was used in a brick kilns, 3 brick kilns, and that contained 80% biomass paddy straw and 20% pressed mud. So that plant is functional now, and the total all the briquettes are used in a brick kiln for production of bricks, and the quality is very good. Now, upscaling that model, we had another plant, upscaled model with the support of our industrial partner, Punjab Renewable Energy System in district Patiala. So that plant has recently been a pilot completing this near commissioning side. So they have set up now 100 tons per day capacity, and the briquettes are now being used as a boiler for steam generations. So this is the status of this thing. But only thing, while working on all these options, I found out that paddy straw is not an easy material to handle. So if we are saying that, okay, XH2 is a good option, we need to explore more, but at the same time, we need a further research on increasing the life cycle of all the components, wearable components, and also identify technology. Because if you look into a paddy straw paddy has this issue is with the permal variety of paddy, which has a high silica content and low, very thin this section of stem. So that is the particular, which Punjab has about 70% production is from the permal variety. This. So I would say if we all the XH2 options we are working on, we need to have some integrated kind of compendium. I would say compendium of technologies, whatever technologies have been set up, what kind of level of research has been taken up, and what is the outcome, workout life cycle analysis, and that part is totally missing. All the research institutions who are working into this aspect, they are working in isolation. That is not in the public domain, and it is not being integrated. So, and the research is taking place at its own level. Even if we are going in for any bio CNG project, also pre-processing is a major challenge, and still we have come long way, covered long way, but still there is improvement, and there should be a proper R&D on the further R&D component on this, so that we could cover up this, reduce the life cycle, increase the life cycle, and reduce the maintenance cost. Only then this XC2 application will succeed onward. So that is my this point. And again, this pellets conversion of pellets also. Again, pellets conversion has again pre-processing option difficulties in that. But again, as Dhingraji has said, that we are also working with support of DST organization, ACRI and TERI, and we are trying different component increasing coatings for increasing the life cycle of a component. So that issue is again still we are working on that. I think other research institutions should also come up to improve the life cycle and work on the processing pre-processing system of this paddy straw. This is what I have to say in that. Yeah.
Thank you. I think all of us would agree that a focused R&D effort of a critical mass and scale would make a huge difference to all the XC2 options. And I think that's one gap we need to address. May I now request Professor Vijay from IRIDA, the IRIDA professor in IIT Delhi, to give us the benefit of his views. Professor Vijay, please. Professor Vijay, are you there?
On the panel right now, sir. He's not on the panel right now, so I can't see him here.
Okay, then can we request Shri Kulshesh from MTPC to give us the benefit of his views? And we're all delighted to read and hear about your new bid process for getting more briquettes for your plants. So, Shri Kulshesh, if you are there. Shri Kulshesh, if you are there. Then we are having difficulty in getting him. So shall we move on to the next expert on the panel? Shri Kulshesh, we can't find him. So Colonel Rohit Dev from the Punjab Renewable Energy Services Private Limited, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm sure you all can hear me.
Yeah, we can.
So first I will start with the breaking news. You know, I'm fond of a lot of TV debates by evening. So there is a news coming in right now at this hour at 4:09. So it's 4:16 right now by a clock. The Supreme Court has now directed a one-man committee under retired Justice Madan Lokur to monitor the stubble burning in Punjab, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh, and also express concern over the citizens' breathing problems in Delhi NCR. So that's a good thing to start. It is being monitored. And we also heard the Honorable Prime Minister giving a push and trying to tell the Petroleum Ministry to stick to timelines for the bioethanol plant about 3 days back. So as we see, the focus is there. And I will not tell you what Punjab Renewable does because generally now people know what we do. I will now cover the aspect in 3 parts. The first part would be that what can we do as a nation to make sure that this commodity, which is actually priceless currently and a waste, can be utilized for our energy transition. The second part I will cover is how the farmers can be benefited in the overall gamut of this entire industry. And the third, I will consider, if there's time permitting, some recommendations which we can go ahead with. So insofar as every speaker has said that we have about 20 million tons of the feedstock being burnt as waste. So there is tremendous options there are two streams of these options. The first stream is to use this biomass-based fuel in various form factors, whether raw, chipped, briquetted, pelleted, some form, to be used in lieu of the fossil fuel. So it's basically to be burnt in lieu of fossil fuel as a fuel. The second stream which we are looking at is the biofuel industry, whether you call it 2G ethanol, bio-CNG, biogas, or any kind of a high hybrid solution which produces energy. Insofar as the first part is concerned, there are 2-3 major projects which can offtake the biomass and to be used. And the primary is the boiler industry. So I will give you some places where we are working on. We are working with the pharmaceutical industry, FMCG industry, rubber tire industry, textile industry. So such like industries which actually require steam as a utility and they utilize boilers, we can use these various form factors of biomass to be used there. The second stream is that we can also use these to burn in even things like bricklin. It can be transported. It can even be used in, as bad as something like a crematorium. You can use in terms of not using the wood cutting and all that. So various things can happen. Also, the same form factor from a raw biomass can be changed, like people said about, making bricks, making furniture, making utensils, all are within the scope, and companies, big companies like IKEA are doing it in the world, and also they have plants in India as well. The other form factor of bioethanol and biogas, we are all aware. So here is the first recommendation I want to make, that we as a country should plan for an energy transition. Yes, to hit the issue of stubble burning in next 1 or 2 years, we should do more. However, if we don't plan our energy needs for the next about 50 years and peg it there, and let me tell you how to go about it, we must understand what is going to be the population of India to start with in 2070. From that will flow the energy need. How much of energy is required by each kind of vehicle? How should we go from petrol to bioethanol to electric vehicles, the transition? How can we, shape the industrial needs through biomass, through hybrid projects, and such like things. So first thing is to map that. Unless a country is able to map that particular facet, we're not being able to, be able to do everything correctly. Because let me tell you, when you talk about a bioethanol plant, the requirement in a single plant today, as per the tenders of HPCL, Bathinda, and BPCL Bargarh, are ranging from 1.25 to about 2 lakh metric tons of biomass per year. NTPC projects also range in the same range, and the bigger plants will offtake around 3 to 4 lakhs. There are textile parks coming up in India which will take about 3 to 4 lakh metric tons individually per year. Then there is a need of smaller biogas plants. The SATA scheme says 5,000 of them to start with, each of a minimum capacity of 35 to 40,000 metric tons of biomass. So where is the biomass? So that mapping has been done by TIFAC, by ASCII. There are numerous reports. And so we need to create these zones. So when you say Bathinda, we have to be very sure how much can Bathinda take in terms of offtake of the biomass, and how can you visualize this transition. That's the first point. The second point is about what is there for the farmers. Now, farmers, unfortunately, are crushed between, the devil and the deep sea. They can't burn the biomass, they're going to get penalized, and they don't have an offtake avenue currently, which is financially viable. So we need to, create some models in which the farmer gains. And here I've got a recommendation in which I've written a paper as well on it and submitted to PMO, is to do with the 4P model. Triple P model we all know. I've added the people to it. So I'll just give you a layman example. For example, now Modi ji has said that we will look at the ethanol pricing in relation to diesel and petrol. So obviously the pricing has to be beyond 55, 60 rupees per liter. And similarly, the biogas currently at 46 or whatever shape it takes. So when you are looking at the end result, we are giving a small portion of that money initially to the farmer, maybe 1 rupee, 1.5 rupees, 2 rupees to start the ecosystem. And then the cost buildup takes place for the biomass from the farm to come to the factory. When that happens, the farmer is getting a very small data. So my recommendation in a nutshell in that paper for the farmer is that once you finally price it, so we should come out as a consortium. So you say, for example, you have a biogas major who's coming with the EPC, the state governments lends the land for 99 years or whatever they can do. NABARD, FCI, and NAFED and etc. can make good storage places which can be leased by companies like mine or by the farmer. And then you have industrial parks which hold this machinery for agriculture, both for pre-harvest, post-harvest kind of a variety, so that we can pick up those instruments from that ground on a lease model. The farmer doesn't have to invest, and then you can ensure the full aggregation. Once you have done all this, everybody works on a base price. So I don't hike up my cost of SCM, you don't hike up your cost of technology, and everybody comes to the same boat. What do? We achieve a very minimal price for the production of that biogas or bioethanol, whatever we are doing. Once we have done that, we have to mark up that delta because the government says 46 rupees you will get. So if we work in a consortium with an open book philosophy, we might get the rate hypothetically, for example, say 35 rupees, 38 rupees, 40 rupees. For example, I'm saying hypothetically. So you made a delta of say 6 rupees. Now is the time that if you can put back a percentage, plow it back to the farmer. So I say, okay, I'm going to make a huge delta in this 5,000 projects. The number of farmers being benefited are X. If I can give back 1 to 2% of my delta to the farmer becomes more involved as a stakeholder, and he is then given an incentive not to burn it, to earn more at 2 stages. First is the initial raw material when he gives it to us, and after that delta is made, he is also a stakeholder. So what have you done? You have made the entire model as more sustainable with the partnership of this people, which is the farmer coming into the foray. So because currently that is the only financial thing which is hitting him, and he doesn't get the same bang for the buck every year because the number of people asking him changes. At times it gets inflated, at times it comes back to normal. So that is what's happening with the farmers. And farmers have a challenge of procuring these machines. A rich farmer can do it in Punjab, maybe or in Maharashtra, but majority of the farmers are borrowing money at high cost of borrowing. And that comes to the next point. What should be the cost of borrowing? Unless you have priority sector lending in the MSME for what we are doing in the biomass supply chain, unless you have cost of borrowing reduced to something like 4 to 6% given to the farmer or the supply chain companies, you are not competing enough with the Indonesian coal or other fossil fuel, and you are giving all sorts of reasons for the farmer to burn it, in the field. The moment you get the cost of borrowing down, the farmer can get the same business, the supply chain company can do the same business at a reduced cost, and that is how you'll be effective. The third thing is everybody wants to do a small entrepreneurial business, even a rich farmer or a medium rich farmer. So I'll give you an example of NTPC. So if somebody wants to put a small plant for the pelleting and only produce say 20 tons per day or 40 tons per day, depending on the machine, and he has to invest for 30, 40 lakhs, he's willing to do that. But what happens to the banking system? When you take this project of the NTPC or such like kind of tenders, the bank says this offtake guarantee is limited to 4 years or so by the NTPC. It's not financially viable to give you a loan. They're looking at a tenure of 7-8 years. So even how we structure our tenders has got a bearing on how the industry will shape up. And fortunately for us, there is a huge push towards this industry. And I would only say that, we should be able to tap on that push. Now, let me briefly give you some of my recommendations. I will not cover all. First is, like I said in the beginning, since it's a concerted effort, and you will see biomass is used by MNRE, Agriculture Ministry, Petroleum and Gas Ministry, finance is involved, DST is involved, civil aviation wants a sustainable aviation fuel. We come under the MSME bracket. Road transport will also use a portion of it in many forms. Environment Ministry clearances, power, textiles. And if you see the overall effect on the health, so all these people along with the PMO and Niti Aayog need to evolve a biomass consumption matrix and an energy transition plan as an inter-ministerial coordination. They can make a cell for it or a committee for it to go ahead. The other thing is that currently it is burning, and there are not many off-takers like my company who are doing business in the biomass space. So you can have a short window. We can see our energy needs. So we can say, okay, by the year so-and-so, I will consume 300 million metric tons of biomass in my country. But till I do that, can I open up some kind of a export, kind of a thing for the biomass in whatever form it can go out to earn that revenue and save on the delta and negate what you're spending on the fossil fuel. That can be one more effort. We need to have slowly a philosophy to reduce coal imports. I would go to the extent to ban it in a timed manner if we can. We need to incentivize carbon credits to promote this industry. Now, whatever you may say, the final ash in whatever quantity, and that is my recommendation for the Punjab government as well, and also where rice is the basis for making briquettes and burning in boilers. Rice per se, by all technical and chemical analysis, has got higher percentage of ash. So what is mandated by the PCB doesn't work for rice too well. So you have to mix it with other fuel. But even if you give a permission for that higher bracket of ash only for the rice-based straw, so companies like ours and the clients which are there actually more concerned, the client, the MNCs, they can allow that burning. It will produce ash. But what is that ash? That ash is actually green ash. It is carbon neutral ash. So unless we think out of the box and give these small kind of caveats to run the industry, it will be difficult to have one kind of a rule applying to all kinds of fuel. It can't be. So if coal gets more health issues and whatever compared to a rice straw, you have to give the benefit for the use of rice straw. Similarly, there are many projects and Shri MP Singh also mentioned and Preetpati mentioned. Now, if you see the industry, steam is something which I also mentioned 8-9 industries which utilize them. Heating and cooling applications are there. There are a lot of technologies. We are trying to get a lot of stakeholders from outside the world to come and do these heating and cooling applications while we ourselves are capable in our country as integrated to our concept and also application to get steam projects. These should get special preferences because it's also energy. It took time with MNRE through our request and push of the industry finally to actually get steam, heating, cooling recognized as renewable energy. Like MP sir was saying, that MNRE actually meant electricity. I mean, till last year, July. So that is the way we need to go forward. And even special schemes for energy plantation, whether you do it from NABARD or CAMPA funds, when you see sustainable aviation fuel, if you're going to have this aviation fuel coming in a big way in our country as per the mandate, international mandates of CORSIA, you have to make sure that you're prepared for these plantation drives. Land has to be given by the state. Somebody has to plant, somebody has to harvest. All this machines requirement of capex has to be planned and given some kind of a push by the government and also the industries. Similarly, when you see, you have to compel people for use of biomass, whether it is for steam generation, co-generation, with the mandate that we have to replace fossil fuel. It has to be. There is a policy already in vogue which says 10% of co-firing of biomass in all industrial boilers. It has not taken shape. The case has gone to NGT, we have fought, industry has fought, everything has happened, but we don't see that happening, except a few MNCs who are coming up and saying, convert us 100%. Similarly, when you go for a biomass-based project, and I'm very happy to note that the Punjab government is so proactive, and I'm not saying because people are there from Punjab government today here on the panel, we have interacted, we have seen the push and drive they are giving to all kinds from a normal steam project to even hybrid projects. They are trying their best. And that is why it is important that when you ask for consent to establish and consent to operate, either you give a waiver for this industry. It's a green field project. Why should I waste time in all these clearances? And if they have to be like that, then why should not have a single window clearance for these kind of projects? Why is it being equated to a coal-based or a fossil fuel-based project? So we need to get our head straight on that one as well and ensure MNRE issues a lot of policies. It leads. CRC, SECI also, but in a time-bound manner, the state governments are not able to promulgate, with the exception of Punjab and such states who do it actually proactively in the same month. I've seen many states who for half a year, 8 months, last year, after promulgation of these policies, they're not even inclined. And that delays the entire requirement. A national effort is drained out because you're not able to co-opt a policy at the state level. So certain things have to be pushed. Bioenergy sector has to be deemed as a priority sector and a sector for lending itself. And I've already said that we should have through the NBFCs, bank, government institutions like IREDA, and we are fortunate, we are the only company who has pushed the supply chain contracts, the capex-based projects and O&M plants through the IREDA as a loan to run this part of the industry. But it has to be a deeper push for entire banking system of the country to understand that. What SOPs you can get is not we are asking for subsidies. What we are asking for is to make the GST nil on biomass-based RE, including steam, briquette, pellet production, entire through the supply chain. For the end product, you can put a delta of 5%, 12%, depending on what kind of commodity you're creating. But if you put a nil GST from the farmer to the factory, at least the entire supply chain will be competitive financially. It will compete with the fossil fuel and coal. And it's very important. We had a lot of talk in March, unfortunately it got derailed. We need to have a biomass-based kind of a seminar at the national level and announce those big tickets which we're talking about, including maybe a tranche of 100 crores for the next year, something like that. We also need to de-link or devalue the credit rating requirement, because everybody from a young farmer or an old farmer or a system there or entrepreneurial companies like us, we can't have a AAA rating or any valuable rating to start with. So if you want to push this sector for some time, 3 years, 4 years, give a moratorium on the credit rating and make sure you have got given enough impetus to it. There are a lot of NPAs lying in the IPP sector. Now, with some VGF influx and financial support, I'm quite sure you can rejuvenate that. We can give it a try. And Punjab government has done it. It has taken out a tender last year when I joined this sector, and they have done a remarkable job to give it a push. So that is why even a thing like income tax holiday for biomass business, or maybe a equity funding for bioenergy through IREDA, through NIF, private equity fund, AIF structure, we have to look at avenues how to fund this sector. And corporate social responsibility of the bigger giants, some delta should be plowed back into the sector to promote farmers' double income, financial inclusion, and such like things. In the infrastructure part, I would recommend only two things. That is that we need to create warehousing through government units like NABARD, NAFED, and all, and also create agricultural parks in the states, depending on the zones where aggregation can happen maximum, and however this international committee decides on zoning of the location. So create those particular parks from where people can draw these machines and do their work. Awareness enhancement is the critical aspect to promote this industry, whether CI does it, PEDA does it, MNRE does it, TERI does it, FICCI does it, CEW does it, MNRE does it. We do it privately for our business. It is the most important thing to happen, and that awareness needs to be cultivated as a structure. Another important thing is about technologies and R&D. Lot of, when you say pelleting, a lot of pelleting machines you will find in Punjab also. They make a die and put it there on a briquetting plant. We run it. Cheap thing to do. But there are industrial giants in the world who have got superfluous technologies of 10 tons per hour kind of a capacity. Expensive. Now you will have to have some collaborative mechanisms. We are trying it with a couple of dealers who initially didn't want to do it. Now they're coming to our terms to co-partner projects with us. So they get the equipment, we get the entire SCM expertise, run it, and we divide the delta over a period of time based on how much we have contributed to the initial capex. That's one model. But we have to put, as a country, as a state government or otherwise, a lot of focus into the manufacturing sector and also the R&D. And I would only, I will dare say that in our country, nothing works unless it is top down. In Punjab government, it is working because institutions like PEDA and PSSTC are so proactive. But that's not the case in the entire country. It has to be driven down as a pilot project led by PMO and all these contributing ministries contributing towards it. Next thing is, which is going to come, a bioenergy commission. A bioenergy commission on the lines of SECI, whether you call it BECI or you want to call it whatever, should take place, and it should have representations from the state, because all the technicalities and tribulations of a state are different. You can't put it on the same coin. Punjab produces X kind of feedstock to a level. Karnataka does the other way around. It doesn't have rice of that degree. That is how you have to, curate a commission which looks after the interest of the farmers and the state, and also gives a push to this particular dimension. The other thing is, we can talk about special packages and all at a later date. But to conclude right now, I would only say that the biomass-based bioenergy sector in India has just picked up in the last year and a half in terms of policy making and the push. And I personally see a huge horizon which can be, captured. It can be worked upon. All reports suggest right from 350 million metric tons to 500 plus or 600 million metric tons of biomass waste. So a huge potential there. And what it does is you tick the sustainable development goals, which our country is signatory to in the Paris Agreement, to the T with this farm to factory connect, whether it be the financial inclusion, whether it be double income of farmers, rural development, participation of women, the VLE creations which my company does. You see these 17 sustainable development goals, they are ticked to the T. There is no other fuel-based industry which can tick all 17. So that is the strength of this, and I'm happy that we share a lot of things in common with PSSTC and PEDA today, and we are working hard in Punjab. Our company has got a pan-India presence, and we are going to newer states by the month these days. Even in the COVID era, this is such a beautiful industry. Our company has been able to run 100% all operation and maintenance for steam and the supply chain, 100%. In fact, in the last quarter, we have made windfall profits compared to our history of existence. Why? Because this industry has got a lot to give to the pharma industry, FMCG, textile, and etc., which I've spoken about. So tremendous scope there. We need to synergize the effort. We must make the farmer a stakeholder, because unless the farmer is the stakeholder in this entire supply chain, and I'm quite sure Nirmal ji will agree with me, I saw him on the panel today, it has to be centric there. That will give us a lot of push for rural development, which is the need of the hour. We can make a lot of smart cities, satellite cities, but finally the world is going to get connected to the rural area. We don't want a migration of rural to urban or semi-urban. We want a connect between rural and the urban. And for that, if we have to make sure that apart from we take as MSP from the farmers as they produce, we are actually able to give them much more based on that 4P concept I've said to go back. And there are many agencies, World Bank, USAID, UNIDO, which are in touch with a lot of proactive state governments in our country. And I think that is the best way forward. So that's my short remark for now. And I can take on any questions which anybody who's watching this.
Thank you. I mean, thank you. This is sort of quite an optimistic potential that you have projected. And the key point, I think, which all of us need to take back is that you have to give a farmer some decent income or additional income out of the process if it is to really take off in a big way. May I now request Shri Harkishan Saini, Director, Science and Paper Industries Limited, for his comments. Shri Saini, if you're there. Shri Saini, are you there? In that case, if he's not there,
Kulshesh has joined us.
Who has joined us?
Shri Amit Kulshesh, sir.
So may I request you for your comments, Shri Kulshesh, please?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, sir. Sorry, I was here. I was not able to speak because I was muted. I think some technical error was there. So I was listening to you. Okay, so basically this NTPC has, you all know that NTPC has recently come out with a very big tender for 20 million tons of agro-residue based pellets. So I would like to tell you about something about that. So that is a tender which within 4 years the 20 million ton quantity is spread out, and the pellets will be delivered to the 17 power plants of NTPC. So it is the combined capacity of all these plants, and the order size you can imagine is of the order of around 15,000 crores. So it is a very big tender, and this in addition to this, we have also come out with smaller tenders. I think they are in the final stages of award, which are totaling about 1.8 million tons of total quantity spread over 9 months. Because these big tenders, we are providing some 9 months duration after award. To fill up the intermediate gap, we have come out with the tenders which can supply in this intermediate period. The gap between the start of the long-term tender, these tenders will be supplying, these vendors will be supplying the material to us. So this is the current status of NTPC procurement for this. I would also like to comment on some of the earlier speakers about this the duration of the tender. They were saying that this 4 years is too small, and they cannot cover their entire entire investment. They cannot. The banks are not ready to finance. So I think that is not correct, because even if you are installing a plant to supply a 20 tons per day quantity, that is amounting to around 20 ton. This amounts to around 15 crores rupees during 4 years. And 15 crore rupees of the total sales will be there through a single 20 ton per day plant. And the plant cost is just a crore or 1.5 crore for a very good quality plant. And if it is a plant with the attachment of die kind of thing, then briquette machines, then it will be even less. So even if it is 1 or 2 crore investment and you are getting the order of 20 crores out of that, so it will easily pay you back. This assumption that the period should be more, I think, is not correct. And these 4 years contract durations we have kept only after discussing with the vendors. So earlier it was 3 years, and we have increased it to 4 years. In the previous tenders it was less. So another thing is XC2 versus in situ debate. I would say that both the things are, and every other option which we can try, we should try, because the quantity is so huge. The TERI has projected just that 680 million tons is the total this agro residue produced in the country. So that is so huge amount, and I think most of it, around 200 million ton, remains unused. 150 to 200 million tons remains unused. So to consume that much of amount, you need to have every kind of possible use, in situ as well as ex situ. But why the farmers are not coming forward to have this in situ utilization? We had some interaction with many farmers in Punjab, as well as we called them here in Delhi. We had a conference with our CMD and TPC. So we came to know that in situ utilization have some barriers for them, like for utilizing it into their own field, they need to they need around 3,000 rupees per acre of expenditure, because in terms of the fuel, drivers, and the heavy machineries which are used to plow it back into the fields. And so that 3,000 rupees they don't want to spend. And even if somebody clears their field by taking 1,000 rupees per acre, they are very happy to do so. And most of the farmers are doing that. They are paying the collectors to clear their fields. I think Mr. Nirmal Singh is here. We have interacted with him also. He would also agree on this, that the farmers are in fact paying to the collectors for collecting their agro residue from their field, and no farmer is willing to burn their field only because of the constraints that they have to sow the next crop, and if there is no alternate available, then only they are burning it. So this is about the in situ. And one more thing in situ we should be aware of is that in situ utilization is basically anaerobic digestion inside the field, and anaerobic digestion inside the field emits a lot of methane also. So we should be aware of that it is creating greenhouse gases, and which are more which is more 20 times more harmful than the carbon dioxide. So this should be kept in mind, that yes, if we can have in situ utilization, it is okay, but these are the barriers. These are some of the drawbacks also, that it is also producing greenhouse gas. Now, in the ex situ utilization, there are several uses, like biomass to liquid fuels, to biomass to gases, this biomethane, and biomass to briquettes or pellets for power plant utilization. So that is all there, but the cost of all these things, if we compare, then the cost for this production of briquette and pellets for the power production comes out to be much cheaper than the other options. So I'm not saying that we should not pursue other options. We should pursue all the options possible. But I think the power plant uses can be accelerated much faster because of economic reasons, and because we don't need the extra time to install some new plants. It can be used in the existing plants only, and the briquette pellet plant takes only 2-3 months to establish. So this is one of the advantage of using it in the power plants, and that is why we have taken up this route. So I think I have covered most of the issues which were addressed to about NTPC's pellet program. So if you have any more questions, I would be delighted to answer.
No, we'll come back to the question, but this is very encouraging. And when I read about the news of your tender, I was very delighted. I said this is a big step that NTPC has taken, and I felt proud of my NTPC. May I request Nirmal Singh, General Secretary, Farmers Association, for his views? Nirmal Singh ji.
Namaste, sir.
Please.
Sir, namaste, sir.
Namaste. Please.
मशीनरी के ऊपर काम कर रहा हूँ सर। तो हर साल 1500 से 2000 एकड़ हम इकट्ठा कर पाते हैं एक सीजन में पैडी के लिए। तो इसके ऊपर जो चैलेंज अभी हमारे के पास सामने आ रहा है कि हमने मशीनरी तो परचेज कर ली, मशीनरी ले ली किसी भी तरीके से, मान लो कोई लोन नहीं लिया या कोई बैंक से सपोर्ट नहीं मिली है हमें इसके ऊपर, लेकिन अभी जब हम उसको आगे कंपनी के पास लेके जाते हैं तो पेमेंट इश्यू बहुत बड़ा हो गया है। अभी कंपनीज फ्रॉड हो रही हैं ज्यादा। जो भी लोग इस लाइन में आए थे पैडी स्टॉक इकट्ठा करने के लिए, कंपनीज उनको बिल्कुल सपोर्ट नहीं कर रही है। तो पिछली बार मैंने अपने एनटीपीसी से उनसे बात हुई थी, तो उसके ऊपर ये हुआ था कि गांव लेवल पे एक छोटी छोटी इंडस्ट्री लगा दी जाए उनके लिए, और वहीं से वो अपना पैडी स्टॉक इकट्ठा करेंगे और आगे लेके जाएंगे पैलेट बना के या ब्रिकेट बना के, जैसी भी डिमांड रहेगी इसके ऊपर। दूसरा ये था कि जो अभी कंपनीज किसान से, जैसे मैं कंपनी को सप्लाई कर रहा हूँ मटेरियल अपना, तो किसान मेरे को 1500 से 2000 रुपया सपोर्ट कर रहा है पर एकड़। अभी जो जलाने के लिए इच्छुक नहीं है, मैं नहीं जलाऊंगा, लेकिन आप मेरे से 1500 2000 रुपया पर एकड़ ले लो। 20 टन 20 30 के बीच में जो मटेरियल निकलता है एकड़ के अंदर से, तो उसी के ऊपर अभी कंपनीज ने क्या किया गया, पहले हमने 150 रुपए पर क्विंटल सेल करते थे कंपनी के लिए, अभी उन्होंने रेट कम कर दिया, 120 रुपए पर क्विंटल ले आए उसके ऊपर। तो ऑलमोस्ट जो नुकसान हो रहा है किसान का हो रहा है। किसान अगर अपनी जेब से पैसा भी दे रहा है और उसको कुछ मिल भी नहीं रहा है। तो इसी लेवल पे या तो कुछ लोन के जरिए कुछ अच्छा मॉडल बना के पैलेट और ब्रिकेट के ऊपर या किसी ऐसे फ्यूल के ऊपर तो उस गांव को दिया जाए और उसको आगे बहुत अच्छा किया जा सकता है गांव लेवल के ऊपर। तो हमारी प्लानिंग अभी चल रही है कि इन-सीटू एक्स-सीटू छोटे किसान है, 2 से 5 एकड़ जमीन है, तो जितना भी पैसा उसकी जेब से जा रहा है, किसान की पहले बहुत बुरी हालत है, अभी मान लो ज्यादा इतना वो नहीं कमा पा रहा है किसान इसके ऊपर। तो कोई भी पॉलिसी अभी तक ऐसी नहीं आई है जिसके ऊपर किसान को सीधे तौर पे मदद हो सके। और बैंक की अगर बात करते हैं तो मैं पिछले 5 साल से ट्राई कर रहा हूँ, बैंक कोई भी लोन नहीं देता है इसके ऊपर किसी भी किसान को। सब दूसरा सब्सिडी है, पंजाब एग्रीकल्चर डिपार्टमेंट ने सब्सिडी जो दी है इस बार, बेलर मशीन जो एक्स-सीटू के ऊपर आएगा मान लो, वो अभी तक नहीं रिलीज हुआ है सब्सिडी। मान लो सीजन तो आधा चला गया अभी तक, हमारा जो सब्सिडी हमें बेलर मशीन के ऊपर मैं अभी तक नहीं परचेज कर पाया हूँ नया मशीन। तो अभी तक उन्होंने मेरे को लेटर नहीं दिया है, बोलते हैं बिल जमा कराओ उसके बाद। और मशीन एक बड़ी प्लानिंग होती है, लेबर बहुत कुछ चाहिए होता है उसके ऊपर, तो पूरा सीजन निकल जाएगा जब तक हम प्लानिंग कर पाएंगे। तो डिपार्टमेंट भी बहुत लेट रहा इसके ऊपर, तो वो कोई सपोर्ट नहीं मानेंगे इसके ऊपर कि हम बोलने के लिए सब है कि हम अवेयरनेस कर रहे हैं या कुछ हो रहा है, लेकिन जो ग्राउंड पे रियलिटी जो होना चाहिए था, जो असर होना चाहिए था, वो नहीं हो पाया है। काफी बड़ी प्रॉब्लम है किसान के आगे। तो जलाने के लिए अभी जो पिछले सालों से माहौल चेंज हुआ है, अभी लोग सपोर्ट कर रहे हैं पहले से। अभी किसान ये नहीं चाहता कि मैं इसको बर्निंग करूं। कुछ डर भी है गवर्नमेंट का कि चालान वगैरह हो जाता है, चलो वो अपनी जगह है, लेकिन अभी पॉजिटिव वे में किसान आ गए हैं बहुत ज्यादा और अपनी जेब से पैसा भी दे रहे हैं। वॉलंटियर हमें डेली 4 से 5 कॉल किसानों की आती है कि हमारे पास, हमारे गाँव में आइए, आप यहाँ पे आकर काम शुरू करिए, और 1500 से 2000 रुपए पर एकड़ वो खर्चा देने के लिए तैयार है अभी अपनी जेब से, कि वो आके हमारी को पैडी को इकट्ठा करके ले। आगे जो सेल जहां इसको हमने यूज करना है, अभी ऐसा कोई मॉडल, सक्सेसफुल मॉडल नहीं आया है हमारे पास कि इसको हम सही से यूज करें। कंपनी को सप्लाई कर रहे हैं तो कंपनी हो रहा है, कुछ कंपनी अच्छी हैं जो काम कर रही हैं बहुत अच्छा, जैसे सैनी सर है अपना बेहवा में बहुत अच्छा उन्होंने मॉडल लेके आए थे। लेकिन ज्यादातर अगर हम देखें, मैंने भी बहुत अपना लॉस खाया है इसके अंदर पेमेंट के ऊपर। तो हमने मान लो एक्सी2 में हम बेलर मशीन या ऐसा कुछ प्रोडक्ट लेके आए, तो ऐसा ग्रुप बना के, जैसे एनटीपीसी अगर सपोर्ट करता है या फार्मर अपने तौर पे कुछ ऐसी पॉलिसी बना दी जाए कि गांव लेवल के ऊपर, और कहीं से कोई रिस्क नहीं है। अब तो किसान पैसा दे रहे हैं जब से, उसी पैसे से फ्यूल बड़ी आसानी से इकट्ठा किया जा सकता है। उस मान लो 2,000 रुपये पर एकड़ जो लगाएंगे तो बड़ी आसानी से हम इकट्ठा कर सकते हैं। वो किसी को देने की बजाय, अभी मैं पहले मैं 150 रुपये पर क्विंटल सेल कर रहा था मटेरियल, अभी मैं 120 रुपये पर क्विंटल सेल कर रहा हूँ। तो 30 रुपये कंपनी जो मैं किसान से 1500 या 2,000 रुपये वॉलंटियर किसान दे रहा है मेरे को अभी, जो पॉजिटिव वे में किसान चल रहा है, तो वो भी कंपनी को चला गया, किसान का पैसा डायरेक्ट कंपनी को जा रहा है। तो ऐसा एक मॉडल जो मान लो ब्रिकेट प्लांट या ऐसा कोई भी मॉडल ऐसा जो गांव लेवल पे काम करे, और दूसरा गांव में अपना लेबर वगैरह की कोई कमी नहीं रहेगी, लेडीज वगैरह जो सब लोग जाके वहां पे बड़े आसानी से काम कर सकते हैं। तो बैंक भी कोई अभी तक ऐसा कोई पॉलिसी नहीं लेके आए हैं जो मान लो कुछ भी कोई प्लांट हम लगा सकें या जितना उसके लिए पैसा चाहिए होगा। किसान अभी अपने तौर पे बहुत अच्छी कोशिश कर रहा है, उसको हम ब्लेम नहीं कर सकते हैं, लेकिन उसको कोई ना कोई ऐसा कोई मॉडल पड़ेगा जिससे उसको कुछ इनकम हो पाए। और अगर वो 1500 2,000 रुपये पर के लिए देना आज के समय में, उसको हम कहीं पॉजिटिव वे में लेके अच्छे रास्ते लगा सकते हैं। और फ्यूल तो भी मान लो फ्री ऑफ कॉस्ट इकट्ठा हो जाएगा, 2,000 रुपये पर एकड़ जो दे रहे हैं, उस फ्यूल को इकट्ठा करने के बाद मान लो मशीनरी मैंने परचेज किया, मैं किसान से 2,000 रुपये पर एकड़ ले रहा हूँ, उसको मैं इकट्ठा करके किसान के वहां स्टोरेज कर दूं, और उसके बाद उसको लेके उसका पायलट बना के या कुछ भी जो मान लो प्रोडक्ट बन सकता है उसको आगे कंपनी को सेल कर सकता हूँ। और जो ग्रुप है जो गांव के लेवल पे जो भी सोसाइटी बनेगी या उसमें बड़ी आसानी से उसको हम यूज कर सकते हैं। फ्यूल इकट्ठा करने तक मान लो इकट्ठा करने तक कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है अभी, लेकिन उसको आगे मैनेज किस तरह करना है या किस तरह कंपनीज को सेल करना है या उसको क्या प्रोडक्ट बना सकते हैं, जैसे हमने अभी डिस्कस किया गया अलग अलग प्रोडक्ट आ रहे हैं। दूसरा, जो अभी तक मशीनरी हम इस्तेमाल कर रहे हैं, जब मैं पावर प्लांट के लिए कर्नल सर बैठे हैं इसमें, रोहित देव सर, जो मशीनरी हम इस्तेमाल कर रहे हैं तो छोटी बेलर मशीन इस्तेमाल कर रहे हैं तक मान लो, उसमें बहुत ज्यादा लगती है। डिजाइनिंग जो हमारी इन फ्यूचर होनी चाहिए पायलट प्लांट की या किसी भी जो भी मशीनरी हम डिजाइन करेंगे, वो ऐसी भी डिजाइन चाहिए कि बड़ी मशीनरी जो भी आ रही है उसको कम से कम लेबर लगा के हम उसको मटेरियल को इकट्ठा करें और लो कॉस्ट में उसको हम प्रोडक्ट तैयार कर दें। जैसे अभी छोटा बेलर मशीन था, उसके लिए 30 से 40 आदमी चाहिए एक पूरा सिस्टम चलाने के लिए, ड्राइवर वगैरह हो। लेकिन अभी जो नया मशीनरी आ गया, हमने अभी परचेज किया बिग राउंड बेलर जो मार्केट में आए हैं, उसमें लेबर कॉस्ट बहुत कम लगती है, और जो किसान भी पैसा हमें दे रहा है उसमें हम उसको बड़ी आसानी से इकट्ठा कर सकते हैं। और विंडो पीरियड बहुत छोटा होता है कि किसान बोलता है कि मैक्सिमम एक हमारी जो फसल कट गई है और उसको एक हफ्ते में हमने क्लोज करके पूरा फार्मर को खेत खाली करके देना है। अगर वो मशीनरी छोटी रहती है तो उसमें टाइम 10 से 12 दिन लग जाते हैं, कोई बेल्स उठाना, ये वो लेबर बहुत ज्यादा लगती है, तो लेबर सही से काम नहीं कर। अगर हम बड़ी मशीनरी लेके आए हैं तो उससे क्या स्पीड बहुत अच्छी बन गई है अभी, और कॉस्ट उसमें कोई ज्यादा लेबर नहीं लग रही है। हाँ, जो आगे के प्रोडक्ट अभी हम तैयार करेंगे, जैसे पैलेटिंग मशीन हो गया, तो उसके स्टोरेज एक बार आसानी से हो जाएगी, किसान को कम टाइम लगेगा, हमने स्टोरेज करके उसको रख लिया। उसके बाद जो बड़ा टाइम मिल जाएगा 1 साल का हमें, कि उसको हम धीरे धीरे उठाएंगे और यूज कर सकेंगे, और जो हमारी लेबर वहां से फ्री होगी या जो गांव लेवल के जो भी लोग रहेंगे उसको पूरा साल वहां पे काम कर सकते हैं बड़ी आसानी से। बाकी सजेशन में अभी ऐसा रियल में किसान तक कोई भी सोच नहीं पहुंच पाई है। बड़ी बड़ी मशीनरी आ रही है, लेकिन वो बड़े लेवल पे कुछ किसान मान लो 400 से 500 होंगे पूरे पंजाब में जो काम कर रहे हैं। जो छोटे किसान हैं उनको हम बिल्कुल ही साइड में लेके चलते हैं, वो क्या कर पाएंगे। सुपर सीडर, हैप्पी सीडर या इंस्टीट्यूट जितने भी प्रोजेक्ट आए हैं या जितनी भी मशीनरी आई है, वो छोटा किसान उसको नहीं ले सकता है, उसकी बहुत बड़ी प्रॉब्लम हो जाए, बड़ा ट्रैक्टर चाहिए उसके लिए। प्रोजेक्ट या ऐसी कोई प्लानिंग बने कि कोई मशीनरी या प्रोजेक्ट लाई जाए जिसके लिए किसान अपने तौर पे इसको चलाएं और पूरा साल उसमें काम करें, और बड़ी आसानी से किया जा सकता है गांव लेवल पे इसको। जैसे हमारे कलबुर्सा में सरकार कर्नल रोहित देव सर ने पायलट का प्रोजेक्ट, वो वैसा प्रोजेक्ट किसान के तौर पे भी लगा सकते हैं, लेकिन वहां पे दिक्कत ये आएगी कि फाइनेंस कहाँ से होगा, उसके लिए लोन वगैरह की फैसिलिटी नहीं हो पा रही है। किसान अपने लेवल पे कुछ इन्वेस्ट कर सकता है, जैसे मान लो 1-2 लाख रुपए हम एग्री कर सकते हैं लोगों को, लेकिन बड़े अमाउंट के लिए जब करोड़ में हो जाती है तो बहुत बड़ा अमाउंट हो जाता है किसान के लिए या उस ग्रुप के लिए, तो उसके लिए फाइनेंस सपोर्ट उसको जरूर चाहिए होगा काम करने के लिए। तो पॉलिसी गवर्नमेंट फाइनेंस की तरफ से पॉलिसी बननी चाहिए, और ऐसा कोई मॉडल, जैसे मोगा के लिए बात हो रही थी कि मोगा वाला मॉडल उसको पूरे पंजाब में लगाया जाए तो अच्छा दिखाया जाए किसानों को जाके, यार ये मॉडल ऐसा हमने इसको डेवलप कर लिया, ये कामयाब हो गया है, इसका उसकी कॉपी हम अपने एरिया में लगा सकते हैं। हमारा कोई मॉडल अच्छा रहे तो उसको पूरे पंजाब में एडवर्टाइजमेंट किया जाए कि ये यहाँ पे ये प्रोजेक्ट अच्छा है और इसको आप अडॉप्ट करो। तो अवेयरनेस की भी बहुत कमी है अभी। जो भी प्रोजेक्ट बने हैं वो बहुत छोटे लेवल पे लगे हैं, किसान तक वो बात नहीं पहुंच पा रही है। कुछ गाँव में तक ऐसा नहीं कि बेल्स कैसे बनेगी, कैसे वो आप उठाओगे, ये भी अभी तक अच्छा, जैसे हेमा में है बहुत अच्छा हो गया, वहाँ पे किसान बहुत एग्री हो रहे हैं, अच्छा सपोर्ट कर रहे हैं पूरे सिस्टम, उनको समझ में आ गया है। तो अवेयर जो भी प्रोजेक्ट आ रहे हैं उसकी अवेयरनेस, प्रोजेक्ट अगर कामयाब हुए हैं तो हमारी लेवल तक भी उसकी जानकारी अब तक नहीं पहुंच पाई है। तो जो भी प्रोजेक्ट है, कोई भी मिनिस्ट्री या कोई डिपार्टमेंट किसी की तरफ से अच्छा प्रोजेक्ट बन जाता है, उसका दूसरों को जल्दी से जल्दी पहुंचनी चाहिए, ये प्रोजेक्ट वहां पे उसको जल्दी से लोग अडॉप्ट कर सकें, तो वो भी होना चाहिए। थैंक यू सर।
थैंक यू, बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया। Do we have any other panelist who has joined late, or can we move on to question and answers?
So we can move on, sir.
So I think you have the questions. To save time, I will give you the responsibility of choosing what seem to be more challenging questions and pose it to the panelists if they are directed to any one panelist. Otherwise, pose it to all of us, and whoever is keen to answer will take over and answer. Okay, but put 3-4 questions together so that, okay. I don't know how many questions you have.
Most of the questions are already answered by Sumit. There are few of them. If you want, I can read it out, sir.
Please read it. Please read it.
Yeah. So one question from Nirmala Devi Thakur. Compositing of paddy straw technique developed by PUSA Agriculture Institute is being promoted by Delhi government. How do you see this option of managing paddy straw?
Okay. Any other questions?
So different solutions are in different stages of development or at execution level. Any timelines that can be defined to end residue burning based upon existing solutions and future solutions need to map it out. This question is from Manoj Singh.
Okay. Any more?
Sir, there are two more actually.
Let me also then pose a couple of questions. The NTPC tender, if I understand correctly, is going to cover 17 power stations, and you are going to consume roughly 5 million tons of paddy straw per year. So if the 30 million tons are to be covered, will the NTPC plants be able to absorb more, or this is about the maximum that you can absorb? So given the economics, etc. So this is, I'm getting some. So this is one question. The other question I have is to this issue of having the XC2 processing at the village level or at a larger geographical catchment area. So in terms of the economics of the costs, is there some sense we have of which is the most optimal or least cost option of processing? So this is my second question. And the third question I have is that in the bio fuel direction, the costs are the costs that are turning out. Do they need any subsidies, or they're fine in terms of whatever the government is offering in terms of price for the equivalent of CNG, etc. So, now, please.
Sir, shall I answer the question about NTPC tender?
Please, please.
Yeah. So this quantity 5 million tons per year for 17 plants is only for the 17 plants. Remaining tender will also come, and this is considering only the 5% mix.
Okay.
We can safely go up to 10% mix. So the similar tenders may come in future. This is just to test the waters, you may say, or to just to create the market gradually, so that the whole process is developed smoothly. Another thing is that this also in this tender there is also demand for the torrefied pellets. So torrefaction is a technology where the mass is reduced half. Maybe 60% or 50%. So if you are using 1 ton of torrefied pellet, you are actually removing 2 tons of biomass from the fields. So considering India's total 2 lakhs megawatt of capacity, we have potential to utilize around 100 tons, 80 to 100 tons, 100 million tons of biomass in all the power plants if we use 10% of that in the power plants. And if torrefied material is used, we can use at least 160 to 170 million tons of material in the power plants only. So the potential wise, we have huge potential to utilize in power sector. But as I said that there are several other value added uses, but they are more costlier options. So all those options should be tried. This is the least cost option. This can be accelerated much faster, but the biomethane and other options are equally good, a little costlier, but they should also be tried.
Thank you. Any other panelists would like to make any comments? Any? Then let me pose one more question. One of the suggestions in the last slide of Mr. Dhingra was that maybe we need a dedicated agency to try and give a coordinated approach to addressing the problem, and which can work in partnerships with all the existing players. So do our panelists see some merit in this idea?
Yes, sir. There is an inherent merit in what has been said by Dhingra. And that's the exact point I also mentioned initially as my recommendation of international coordination in the country. And you can have a FX level body at the central level. Which ministry runs it, whether it's MNRE or otherwise, can be decided. And you have.
But you do see merit in the idea of being a
absolutely. Right from creating a bio exchange at regional level, state level, to monitoring policy making and getting it implemented. You need a through and through chain which goes on. The states can be onboarded on a rotation basis. Some deeper states of agriculture can be permanent members. So some kind of a structure should come up so that their voice counts. The farmer's voice put up to the state counts, and you are able to synergize the entire value chain. That is the need.
Any thoughts on how this technology issues or R&D issues can be addressed on a more urgent basis? Because the problems on technology or materials, I think, are well identified. So if you want to have a more vigorous effort towards addressing it, any thoughts on how it can be attempted?
So that to start with, the first step should be that we have a lot of SOPs given to ease of doing business to get manufacturing into our country. You name any country, whether it's in Europe, Netherlands, or anywhere, even a country like Belarus is today manufacturing the agricultural machines for harvest and post-harvest disposition in a very big scale, and they try to import to India. So initially you may have import influx, but you should have a transfer of technology coming along with that. And a set amount of that should be staged or co-opted for R&D purposes in our country. That is the first macro level point. At the lower level, how to get them in? Because I know I will not take names of those companies, One of the companies told me when I met them last year that, Colonel, we don't do this business. We only sell our machine. You pay us. At best, we can have deferred payment over 6 months, and that's about all. I said, I don't need you. I got somebody else in the world to talk to. So he says, what model? I said, see, if 100 rupees capex is required, of which your machine, say, hypothetically costs 90 rupees worth, and my supply chain is only worth 10 rupees. So come with that as a partner with open book, make the plant, run the plant, and when you get 100 rupees of profit, you take 90, I take only 10. With the proviso that over a period of time, your depreciation of the machine will go down and take you to zero finally. However, I will now increase from 10 to my ball game as a supply chain player with the entire support of my farmer community tell me is to have supply chain for 10 years, 15 years. I will give back your money in a matter of 5 years, 7 years, 6 years. Thereafter also, as a good partner, I promise you 15% delta. So you come and continue with me. That should sustain you. And out of that 15%, you only have to put 5% to ensure that the machines are still running. So everybody's skin in the game has to come. So there is one model I discussed, and believe you me, Shankarji, within 1.5 months, their head of the company was sitting in Delhi with me and Monish and trying to talk it out. Unfortunately, we went into COVID. That has got back seat. But that is the way. So when you talk about machines, like Nirmalji also pointed out, you don't have the money, even 20, 30 lakhs to put. And look at my corporate structure. I've got Shell on my investor and board seat. I've got SBI Capitals on my board seat. How do I do business without following the correct EHS norms, environment norms, safety norms? To put it very mildly, 100 TPD briquetting plant today cost me, with all my assets and everything done with a fixed value for 1 year, nearly 9 crores. Whereas the same thing I could have done 5 years back with nothing in about 1 crore or less. So that is the level which is required. And when you talk about even briquetting in NTPC, they don't need small quantities. I was there in one of the meetings initially when they put the initial tenders of the few of them. There were 10, 15 of us. So people said 4 is enough. 4 is enough for whom? 4 is enough for a rich farmer who can take out 30 lakhs, put one machine and run it. That is not enough for somebody like my company who want to give you 200, 300 TPD. So you understand how the system works. So we need to get technology at a cost which is acceptable. And to the farmer, I would say that we need to provide these machines and technology on maybe a lease model. That part to the farmer can be given. So a Nirmal Singh can go to that park and say, I need 8 balers. And they say 8 balers for this season means 20,000 rupees. So he doesn't have to invest. He doesn't have to invest, for each baler 15 lakh rupees. Similarly, it could be an open source for me as well. So I do that, the state maintains it, and the state runs it. And that is why the PSUs like NABARD, FCI, and NAFED and all come into picture, unless they make storage spaces where the farmer can go and dispose of that as a bale, from where an industry like, companies like mine can pick up. This entire system has to be thought through and implemented. So that is the technology. Technology is not only, sir, about briquetting and pelleting machines and the technology of biofuel. Technology also enables you in transportation from the rural belt to the collection center and beyond, whether it's the type of vehicle, type of raker, baler, chipper, technology, round bale, square bale, size of the bale. And we are not some New Zealand or an Australian farmland where I big a big machine and it takes 100 acres of post-harvest at one stretch. We have small parcels. After every parcel, there's one nali running, one canal running, something running, some trees there, some houses there. So we are working in an atmosphere in which equipment requirement remains same in types of the equipment, but we have to adapt. So technology has to adapt as per the needs of our farmlands. So that is the short point. We have to be sure. And as long as you're thinking as a farmer and for his benefit, I'm quite sure we will sustain. Now, somebody said that farmers are giving money to take off the Paralleli. It happened with us in Punjab also, and Haryana also, border of Punjab. But we said no. Our ethos of a company says we won't fleece you today, because I have to make sure that my project runs for 10 years. If I take it from you today, tomorrow you get smarter and tell me 4 rupees, I can't do it. So we are trying to build an ecosystem in which the farmer is happy initially. Although, unless a CBG project goes, now we are in talks with at least 5 MNCs today. Each wants to come to India and do minimum 5 projects. So you imagine my share next year is about 25 projects of CBG. I'm doing supply chain and probably O&M in few. If I have to sign up for 20-year warranty, I need the offtake from the farmer. How do I make it lucrative? So that model I told you about, that 4P model, I'm trying to insist on a few of those people from Singapore and Europe to say, follow this model with me. So you are open book with me and let me give a part of my delta, if not yours, to the farmer, so that I am confident of the rates I'm putting on the table, because I am signing off for 10 years. So that is how we have to even think about technology. Unfortunately, you imagine even in the defense sector, agriculture sector, our R&D is very poor actually. So we rely on import first, but I would say that insist on the technological transfer, then insist of manufacturing here. To one of the people from Europe, I even said that we will force you in a way that my company itself will ask you for 100 pellets every year from now. And you will make the pelleting machines here, because NTPC is going to come up with more and more for pelleting. And you can then export your machine from India to Africa, which is the next market for the same thing. So that is the way to, curate and think through 20, 30 years in advance and try. We are the population which is growing. We are the population which is the market demand in the world. We are the population holding to the biomass, and the agriculture sector is robust. If we can't cash on and make policies to get technology in and imbibe and put in R&D money as some small quantum for that, for a foreign firm to invest in R&D in my country, I think we will fail. So we have to be a little aggressive in that design and very polite in our talk to get it in actually.
Thank you.
Sir, I would like to add some points on this R&D issue, sir. Basically, this it was told that this Paralleli is a very difficult material, and because of high silica, the pre-processing is very difficult. Yes, I agree with that. And one of the solution which we found useful is the torrefaction, or the roasting of the material to make it more brittle and more easy to handle. So this torrefaction machines we are trying to get developed through CSIR also, and I think this Indian development of this kind of machine would be very useful if R&D is done in this field, so that the cheaper machines are available which can handle this kind of material. And because of this torrefaction, the electricity demand is also reduced, which is a costly energy for pre-processing. So here only you have to heat it, which is a cheaper form of energy. So the cost of the briquettes or pellets per kilocalorie is also reduced. So what we have seen in the recent tender in Haryana, the cost of torrefied pellets is even less than what we are paying for the non-torrefied pellets.
Oh, I see. Yes. That's interesting. Mr. Dhingra, would you like to make some comments?
Sir, Mr. Dhingra had to leave for certain reasons. Yeah.
Okay. So Sumit Sharma, Sumit would like to say something?
No, I think, sir, there is a lot of discussion which has already happened. In fact, there are two questions which are there in the question and answer list. Mr. Gaurav Joshi from World Bank has asked that is there any possibility of using residues for developing packaging material, and viability of these kind of options. The other thing is regarding which is asked by Mr. Mihir Mathur from Desta about the possibility of crop diversification, so that we can actually avoid generation of any sort of stuff. So other than that, sir, I think the most of the things have been discussed. The point is that it is a major contributor to air pollution in this region. There is no dispute about it. Let's not pinpoint or start the blame game who is doing what. As you rightly said, the objective here is to provide solutions, and as fast as possible. And in my opinion, in last few years, we have seen the improvement and we are moving in the right direction, but the pace of things need to be much, much faster than before.
And even with crop diversification, maybe the problem of air pollution would get slightly mitigated. But hearing all the panelists, I felt that we do need a national kind of dedicated mission approach to handling the agricultural sector's waste in a manner in which we move to a cost-effective circular economy, because it is a resource which can be used now, whether it is used for methanol or whether it is used for pellets or whether it's used for other eating purposes or it is used as fodder as being done in many parts of India. I think a holistic approach and an approach which looks at a district-wise medium-term plan across the country, I think would be a good direction to go into, and as was suggested in the presentation itself. But right now, I think we need to somehow get our act together and not have a situation where the Supreme Court is appointing a judge to monitor the situation, or they're screaming headlines on the front page that this must be closed or that must be closed because of the burning of crops and what is doing to air pollution. And in addition, Sumit, you're doing so much more on the other sides of and other dimensions of air pollution. So all of it has to fit into a solution where hopefully by 25 we will have clean air in the country. I think it's doable. Because right now it's very challenging and difficult, but I think 5 years is a long time, and I think we should really think and have that ambition that how do we have clean air by 25 and then work backwards and see what milestones we need by what date in various directions. And crop burning certainly, I think, hearing everybody, I think in 3-4 years, it should certainly be possible to have the problem behind us. But there are huge challenges and certain very major decisions which we need to try and persuade people that is needed, like the idea of a dedicated agency, or see how the state governments do all that is required of them to make things happen with their so these are, I think, challenges which we will need to pursue.
With the permission, Chair, if I could just point out that question from the government representative who talked about the packaging material. So there are few entrepreneurs, and I know personally of a set of 2 young entrepreneurs who contacted me on LinkedIn to ask for rice straw and their technical study there. And there are also firms which are currently trying to invest in India to make this packaging material. It's on the lines of IKEA, which is making furniture itself from the biomass based. So there is some renewed interest in the sector, but it's not grown to that scale. And I have seen those candle packaging and everything to be, those boxes being made by that. So it is happening in India, but not to that scale in probably we imagine. So it's for a small scope to scale up.
No, I think the potential for using waste is enormous, and other countries have done all kinds of things. And so ideally we should have a goal, some kind of a national objective where we use 100% of the waste from the rural economy in a circular economy in ways which are desirable. And in theory, or in conceptually or in practice, the technologies exist all across the world. So it's getting them to be adjusted to the size of our farms, the nature of our market, the buying capacity, etc. But I think as a national goal, 100% use of all the waste in some useful manner and in a sustainable manner is a conversation or a discussion we certainly need to have in greater depth as we go along. If there are no other comments, then I think I would like to thank all the panelists and say there's been a very useful and educative session. And I think there's a lot of food for thought for each one of us. And also many ideas about what to pursue and how to try to persuade others on where to go and what to think about and what to do. These words let me each one of you who participated, those who joined in, and those who asked questions. Thank you. And this is I think also a conversation that we need to keep coming back to every few months till we feel we've really got our act together. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir, for moderating this session so efficiently. Thank you, everyone, speakers and the participants. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.